Hi, today I'm going to be talking about Visual Intelligence by Amy E. Herman, and the front cover of the page of the book just says, "Sharpen your perception and change your life." This book will actually really help you to open your eyes more and see things that are really important to you and that matter to you in a different way. It's crazy cool. I really recommend the book to anyone who sees this. Recommend Visual Intelligence. Okay, I actually just have a couple of notes to sum up what I read from the book. One second. Okay, so it helps you to ask yourself questions when you're in a certain scenario, when you're looking at things like you have to ask, one of the examples was when you're in a certain situation or you're looking at a certain scene in your life, or you're trying to study something or see what's happening. You could ask yourself 3 questions, which is, what do I know, what don't I know, which is called pertinent negative, and if I could get more information, what do I need to know. I think this book's really good because whenever it asks you to ask yourself these questions, or it explains certain things, it always gives a lot of backup scenarios and stories of real life situations where the application of what she teaches you really helps in life. And sometimes it's even a matter of life and death that helps to be on the more brighter side, to fix problems and all that. And it also helps you to shift perspective and everything. So a really great part of the book of Visual Intelligence is that it teaches you the art of communication. So just a quick summary. The book goes for a few parts, which is assess, analyze, articulate, and adapt. So when you're assessing things, you get to see what matters. Then you have the fine art of observation, seeing between the little things. And then it also has a chapter on how no two people see things the same way. When you're in an argument, or when you're talking with someone and they're explaining a situation to you that you also saw at the same time, you might be wondering why is it different, why are you seeing it differently? But unless you can totally put yourself in somebody's shoes and how they see life and how they grew up, then you can't really judge someone based on how they react to a certain situation, or how they see something in a certain way. Because the way that someone grows up, or the way that someone goes through life, will affect the way that they see things, and that's completely normal. That's the same for everyone else. And I saw this quote, I don't know who says it, but it's things are not the way that they are, but they are the way that we are. Does that make sense? That makes sense, yeah. And so in Analyze, it's about seeing something from all the angles, seeing something from a different perspective, seeing it from a parent's view, a teacher's view, and putting yourself in different angles and really looking at a scenario. Sometimes it's just, sometimes it's even physically looking at a painting upside down or something, to see different perspectives and things about the painting. And then one of the sayings was that they said also I'm not sure if they say in the US Army or Navy, and also a lot of football coaches using it, which is keep your head on a swivel, meaning you're always looking at all angles whenever you're looking at something. And the next thing is to prioritize, which is seeing what's missing. And when you see things what's missing, when you see different ways, you can prioritize which is more important, so that you can see which is more important. Okay, an example, when you see a scenario, right? If you're looking at it from something was stolen, you're gonna be looking at things that are expensive, or things that might have price or value to someone. Then you're why isn't that missing? Or if it's of maybe a homicide or something, then you'd have to see it from maybe that could have been used as a weapon or something like that. It's seeing things and prioritizing depending on the situation that you are given, or that you see yourself faced with. And then the next one is articulate. So in that section, it helped to talk about communication and how you can avoid communication breakdowns, because a lot of the times there are situations where we find ourselves in an argument with someone or in a weird like situation, and it's because of miscommunication. And it's really important to break down that miscommunication before like you let the dust settle between things, because situations can get out of hand, even more out of hand, if you just, you know, keep miscommunication like out there. And it also helps to talk about and see and share about hard truths, because a lot of times there are things that are really uncomfortable to talk against, or to say that it's true, because it's uncomfortable to speak up about. Like, and she shows pictures of two women who are naked, and it's like a painting, and like sometimes people, one of the teachers was, he was like a principal of a school, he was attending one of her programs or whatever, and he was like, I don't want to see that, that's uncomfortable, I don't like seeing it. And she was like, I don't mean to offend, but like the point of this isn't because you'll be comfortable or not, but it's a fact that it's out there, and you can't just ignore it, because it's actually, you know, it's true. It's not something made up. It exists, and there are situations like that and scenarios where people avoid that uncomfortable situation or that uncomfortable truth, and you're like, I don't want to think about maybe this is the reason why it's happening, because you don't want to think it might be happening. But sometimes a lot of times it's important to see hard truths and accept it, and then from there move on to really, you know, so it can help you in your communication and visual intelligence skills. And then the last one was about adapting and overcoming inherent biases, because all of us have biases. Like, everyone has their own biases. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but what's really important is to understand which ones are yours. Like, when you make a certain decision or you say something or your actions, it will be based on your biases. And although some of them can help you, you know, like maybe you grew up in a certain way, it can help you to assess certain things in life. There are other biases that you use that maybe unconsciously you don't even know that it's there, but you use that and your actions may not be that positive or good. And so it's really good to determine which ones are your biases, and then you can also like run them with other people. Like, what do you think about this? This is like what I think about, because a lot of the times our biases aren't really facts, and so we can't completely like immediately use that against something. And then, so yeah, visual intelligence speaks up a lot about that, like being more objective and less subjective, which is pretty good. And then planning, practice, editing, and it uses a lot of examples with paintings and everything. And so a little breakdown of the breakdown I've been doing is these last few, which is don't lose sight of the small details, because they can be really important. Like, maybe just like let's see, maybe a person's walking and like he forgot his right sock or something. I don't know. Sometimes it can, like, small details and things that we might just like skim over because we're like, why does it even matter? But sometimes it can be a big deal. And so it's really important to always take note of the small details, and when you're studying something, situations, scenarios, to always like go through that. And the next one is don't rush to judgment. Don't judge. Step back and start at ground zero, and then prioritize by importance. Always ask questions, especially yourself, because it's important. And don't forget the basics: objective facts and describe, minus the emotions, because human beings are very emotional creatures, and sometimes that can get in the way of our perception. But it's not like completely pushing our like emotions aside and being like, oh, stone cold, like when you're describing something. But sometimes it's better to like first acknowledge that you're feeling a way, because like, why would you push it aside? Like, acknowledge it and express it, and then use that aside while you when you're explaining something, you use more of objective. Subjective is more like when you explain something, you're using more of like your emotions to explain it, or scenarios that you've encountered in life. Objective is more explaining the facts. Like for example, just like an example before I end this, is like instead of saying, yeah, the table was big, you can say like a certain measurement. Because what if someone looks at it and is like, the table's not that big, it's like small. You know, it's subjective to yourself, because in your perception you're like, it's like this. But if you state like objective facts, like, you know, it's more of like who, what, where, when. Like when you see someone, you could be like, oh yeah, I was talking to him earlier and he was a brat, or like he was being annoying. And then instead of saying annoying or like a brat, it's better to describe what he was doing. Like he'd be like, oh, he slammed the door, or like, oh, he dropped the books on the floor. And Visual Intelligence is a really cool book. Like I would really suggest you read it if you can read it. And like, yeah, okay, thanks for reading. Thanks for listening to this. I hope that you have a great day. Bye.